and welcome to another exciting edition of Jamaica Magazine. I am your host, Audrey Williams. Today we look at how the Ministry of Education and Youth is improving the infrastructure and educational outcomes for our young people, and how youth farmers can earn more in the agriculture sector. All this and more when we return.
What a way you're full of our roots and culture. That was in Jamaica 60. Jamaica 60? What a piece of news, Miss Matty. I feel like my heart going bust up.
Just in, the island of Jamaica is on the verge of celebrating its 60th year of independence.
A holy way of celebrating it. They say the people them come here, you know. But you see, when our people decide, say the other people them free paper, burn up, them say if it's war, start it, whatever. We all collect medal pants of it, you know.
Medal.
Amount of tongue we give them, you know.
The celebrations are slated to begin on January 1st, 2022. Organized by the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. We have more in this report.
I am on site and planning activities are ablaze. Persons are advised to download the Reggae Jamaica app to know what it pre. Activities for the Jamaica 60 celebration.
I forgot to download the app to get the updates then.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, May 20, 2022. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is urging Jamaicans to hold strain as the world and the country continue to grapple with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Holness says rising energy and food prices, as well as the ongoing conflict in Eastern Europe, have exacerbated the challenges. But he asserts that the state has managed to maintain economic stability while protecting the vulnerable. He is therefore urging citizens not to disrupt the economic growth that the country is experiencing.
Now is not the time to disrupt the society. Now is not the time, as I've said before, to kick over the milk, the very milk that we're going to have to deliberate over how it is shared up. Now is the time when we must protect the milk, protect our economy, protect our country, protect our society, protect our environment, protect our prospects for development.
The Prime Minister's comments come as there has been increased agitation among public sector workers for better remuneration packages. The Ministry of Education and Youth has mandated the wearing of masks in schools effective immediately. In a bulletin issued on Thursday, the ministry said the mask mandate was in response to the rise in COVID-19 infection rates. School administrators have been reporting an increase in suspected and confirmed COVID-19 cases among staff and students. The ministry is advising that students and staff who turn up to school without a mask should not be denied access, but should be assisted with a mask to facilitate teaching and learning. Administrators are also being reminded to resensitize all key stakeholders about the protocols to be observed.
We're going to take this opportunity again to appeal to the general public, and specifically our students, our parents, our teachers, our staff, to please observe the public health advisories. We continue to encourage wearing of your mask, sanitizing, washing your hands frequently, observing physical distancing still, because everyone knows that this is good for the health of everyone.
Minister Williams says where it becomes necessary, school administrators may need to revert to remote learning. However, principals or board chairs must consult with the regional director or education officer for approval and guidance.
We will continue to, of course, ensure that we get the reports on a weekly basis so that we can monitor and continue to provide guidance for our schools.
$200 million has been allocated to improve road conditions in Montego Bay, St. James, to help ease traffic congestion in the second city. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the disclosure at the recent handing over ceremony for the Area 4 headquarters of the Jamaica Fire Brigade in Montego Bay. He says the roads to be repaired will serve as alternative routes to bypass the usually congested town of Montego Bay. Targeted thoroughfares include the Westgate Main Road, Mount Salem to Catherine Mount, and Providence to Norwood. The scope of work will entail improving intersections by widening and installing proper signaling, resurfacing the roads, and putting in various sensors where necessary. The Prime Minister says this is a temporary fix, adding that the key focus will be on the construction of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road.
We really have to look at expanding the city and expanding how we provide mass transport for the city. So the government has already made the provision and it is already underway for the Perimeter Road. It is now at the stage where they are doing the negotiations for the various bonds to put in place for the contracts to be operable. In the interim, the government has allocated 200 million Jamaican dollars to improve the quality of local roads.
Starting this month, farmers will have access to their new identification cards within 5 days of registering with the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA. Minister Pernell Charles Jr. made the announcement in his contribution to the sectoral debate in the House of Representatives earlier this week.
Get too many complaints about just simply the RADA process. And I want to commit to my colleagues and I want to commit to this country that we are going to do everything we can to make sure the restructuring of RADA is not just a phrase on paper.
A new pre-registration system will also be launched this month to capture more farmers and align them with services being offered by RADA. On Wednesday, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange, unveiled a bust of labor movement activist Agnes Aggie Bernard. The sculpture is located at the Workers' Monument on Port Royal Street, downtown Kingston. Minister Grange says it is a tribute to the workers of Jamaica and is one of the legacy projects for the country's Diamond Jubilee celebrations.
We honor one of the truly outstanding women of Jamaica, a heroine in her own right. Aggie was truly one of the great and faithful servants of the labor movements in Jamaica.
The bust was commissioned by the Ministries of Culture and Labor and unveiled during a ceremony to kick off Workers' Week 2022. This year's observation has been extended and is being recognized from May 18 to 31 under the theme Repositioning Jamaica's Labor Market Post-COVID-19.
Our theme this year, Repositioning Jamaica's Labor Market Post-COVID-19, highlights the recognition of the fact that if Jamaica is to recover lost ground and continue on the road to economic prosperity, it will be the Jamaican worker who will have to redouble our efforts in every sector to improve our productivity and increase earning power.
And finally, schools, infirmaries, town centers, and other public spaces are among the areas to receive attention come Labor Day next Monday. This year's Labor Day is being celebrated under the theme, Reigniting a Nation for Greatness, Protect Our Heritage and Environment. The slogan is, Make Jamaica Crisp and Clean. Prime Minister Andrew Holness will lead work to renovate Mandela Park, which has been identified as the national project. The St. Catherine Municipal Corporation will be cleaning up the Natural Bridge in Riversdale as its parish project, while a disabled-friendly sidewalk and footpath will be constructed in Daytona Portmore. The Charles Gordon Market District in St. James is identified for several upgrading works, and a general cleanup of the Kellettstown Centre is planned for Clarendon. The Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Mary and St. Thomas municipal corporations will be upgrading infirmaries in those parishes. St. Anne and Portland will focus their activities on schools. Sanitary conveniences will be constructed in the Junction area of St. Elizabeth, and Trelawney has identified the parish municipal building, Water Square and pedestrianized areas of Falmouth for Labor Day activities. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
To hear from our children, we will need to make room for them to express themselves. Let's look at how the Ministry of Education and Youth is working toward facilitating that expression in the restructuring of infrastructure and educational outcomes for the financial year.
I anchor my sectoral presentation to that of the most honorable Prime Ministers which was entitled Sowing Seeds for Peace, Opportunity and Prosperity.
The Ministry of Education and Youth is indeed sowing seeds in the classroom, on the playground, in the technology realm, and within the minds of Jamaica's future, its young people.
Having returned our students to full face-to-face classes on March 7, 2022, the first order of business has been recovery.
Recovery for education begins with getting all students back in their seats. The ministry's Yard-to-Yard Find the Child initiative is playing a major role.
We also call on all Jamaicans. You know these children in your communities that are not attending school. Call us at 211.
The next step is to address the learning loss caused by the pandemic. So, as it plants seeds of opportunity, the ministry is financing extra lessons and providing lesson plans so educators have more time to teach.
The goal is to have lessons for all subjects and all grades. Unfortunately, with the return of face-to-face classes has come an upsurge in violent behavior in our schools.
To ensure a safer school environment, the ministry is amplifying its use of handheld and walk-through metal detectors and installing more CCTV surveillance systems.
We're working closely with our partners to improve safety and security within our schools.
Uniformed groups are also being restored to prominence, with special focus planned for primary and secondary schools in the 5 zones of special operations. Changing the future of education also means updating the learning model. So, a Standard 2 training program developed by the Early Childhood Commission will be offered to early childhood practitioners through the Heart NSTA Trust.
The program was designed to support the early childhood institutions to have comprehensive programs designed to meet the language, physical, cognitive, creative, socio-emotional, spiritual, cultural, and school readiness needs of children.
And the primary specialist teacher model is being expanded to more schools.
To date, Madam Speaker, 378 schools, approximately 4,500 teachers, are advanced in the implementation of the model. A further 191 schools are scheduled to implement the model beginning in September 2022, with the final 173 set to begin in September of 2023. Our students' nutritional status impacts access to learning, readiness for learning, and success at learning. The draft National School Nutrition Policy was signed off by the Ministry of Education and Youth and the Ministry of Health and Wellness and has been submitted for the next step of the approval process.
What should my child know and do? Is one of the questions regularly asked by parents who want to participate in their children's education. And the ministry has designed a program to answer that.
This will allow parents to track how their children are doing, but also give them the knowledge about what their children should know and do, and by what age they should know and do these things. This will allow more timely intervention and a closer working relationship with the practitioners and the parents.
To equip the education system for optimal learning, some major infrastructure development projects are in the works.
We will complete work on 4 major infrastructure projects being carried over from last financial year. Black River High School, construction of 2 classroom blocks with a total of 12 classrooms and a wastewater project. Kingston College, completion of computer labs, library resource center and wastewater project. Papine High School, a school with 18 classrooms for 1,300 students, urgently needs to get off shift, needs at least another 18 classrooms and a wastewater project.
Several other schools are tapped for major infrastructure development, while fencing and electrical upgrades are planned for others. These projects are geared towards the elimination of the shift system, reduction of overcrowding, and the provision of quality spaces in schools. Technology is not just the way of the future, it is here and now. The Education Ministry is spending $1.2 billion for electronic resources. such as apps and ebooks at the primary level, and getting more schools connected.
381 schools will be connected to the government internet service through third-party contractor, yes. 362 schools will get Wi-Fi local area network installed and upgraded.
A coding/computer applications class will be incorporated in the regular curriculum to support the Coding in Schools program rolled out in November 2021. The Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, is developing legislation and/or a policy paper for treating abandoned babies. CPFSA is also creating early warning signals to alert state actors when something is going wrong in the lives of children. Construction is now underway on a therapeutic center on the grounds of the Maxfield Park Children's Home, and several pieces of legislation are being amended to heighten the care and protection of Jamaica's youngest citizens.
We know in our minds exactly the future that we would have if all of our students have a good quality education, and that education is aligned to the future job market.
The language in the text is clear. The atmosphere of education as we know it is changing for the better.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries announced a 7.9% increase in crop production in 2021, despite COVID-19. Currently, we're still experiencing challenges on a global scale. So, let's learn how you can profitably advance food security.
Farming is a way of life, especially here in Jamaica. Today, an increasing number of young people are getting involved.
Back then, persons used to look down on agriculture based on the stigma that agriculture is for a particular group of persons. But I am proud to say that that stigma has been reduced significantly. So no longer is agriculture a last option. It's a primary option where persons are now interested in pursuing even studies at the master's level in agriculture.
Getting started in agriculture can be tricky, so there are a number of things new farmers need to be aware of.
For young persons who would like to get involved in agriculture, the first thing I would say to them, they have to first assess their interest. Agriculture is a very wide industry with different sectors, and so they first need to look at, do I have an interest in crop production or animal production?
Crop production is the process of growing produce for domestic and commercial purposes, whereas animal production is the technology applied to keeping animals for profit. You know, feeding, rearing, and breeding. That's just the basics. So for the next few minutes, we'll learn more about getting started in crop production.
We at RADA, and the field staff particularly, when we are engaged about young persons getting into farming, when they approach us, one of the main things we want to emphasize is about training. A lot of persons want to venture into agriculture, and they see it as something that they can get into without getting that technical knowledge, because it's easy to go and get the land, prepare and sow the seeds and all of that. But there's a lot of other issues you have to consider. You have to consider the pest and the disease control. As you say, you have to look at the weather condition, you have to look at the type of crop. Different crop require different environmental conditions. Two major things we also emphasize to new entrant farmers is we look at the markets. Don't just jump into production without thinking about your market. I know it's sort of tempting for a lot of persons when prices are high and it look very nice, and you can get a lot of income, but that's not always the case. Because by the time you put in that crop, the price is usually, and the crop come in, the price is usually low. So we look at the market. And another thing, we look at the cost of production. A lot of new entrance farmers, they want to get into production without looking at what it costs to produce a crop. That is very important because that is how you can determine if you are able to make a profit based on how you estimate your costs and your market price and all of that. So we emphasize the cost of production. So those are some of the things we emphasize to new entrant farmers.
So there are different options such as agro-processing that young persons can venture. So you don't have to be looking at agriculture as going in the sun, sweating. You can still do that practice. That's the traditional practice. But there are some contemporary practices that involves technology, such as hydroponics and aquaponics. And so young persons can look at that option as well. So don't picture a farmer as this person in dirty clothes, this person riding a donkey. Some of the farmers know they are driving the biggest vehicle you can think of, and they live in the best household that you can think of. Another thing that you need to do is to partner with RADA, in particularly the agri-linkages, to help you seek possible markets before you venture into the field of agriculture. And what you can also do is to do a SWOT analysis. When I say a SWOT analysis, once you identify your interest, you're going to be now looking at your strengths, assess the strengths, you're going to assess the weaknesses and how you can overcome them. You're going to look at the opportunities that exist, and you're now going to be looking at the threats. So one of your threats could be your, I wouldn't say competitor, because in agriculture, I don't want to give the impression that we are competing. We're all in this thing together. But there are some threats such as disaster. How can you bounce back, or how can you mitigate certain effects? So a SWOT analysis is very important when you're looking at agriculture as a young person.
With all that information in mind, get started with your research. Start farming, as you can help to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business by growing what we eat so we can eat what we grow.
I want to get rid of that stigma that is attached to agriculture. And I want persons to understand that if we don't have farmers, we won't have any people. So where there's no food, the people will perish. So look at agriculture as a business and not as a traditional, disregarded occupation. It's a very lucrative, very vibrant occupation that you should all think of.
Art is the expression of human creative skill and imagination brought forward. Let's look at how creatives use murals to express their social viewpoint.
After getting your fresh produce at the Coronation Market, make your way through the busy and bustling streets of downtown Kingston to the edge of the 7th largest natural harbor in the world. What you'll find is an art haven of bright, beautiful, breathtaking murals. Welcome to the Arts Page. You're in for a visual treat. Art has the power to revive, and through this, the once abandoned-looking buildings in downtown Kingston now don freshly painted murals, transforming the area into an artistic hub abuzz with admirers.
My mural depicts a representation of children in the inner city, or from inner city communities that face challenging circumstances such as poverty, single parenting, and this shrunken ability to make positive decisions or choices. With that, the mural also depicts through the use of bright colors and the use of playful organic shapes and lines. It depicts this sense of hope and possibilities for change.
My mural is the big green mural with the women and the mushrooms. It's really about sexual coercion and sexual harassment, and how these incidents can have long-lasting effects on women as they go through their lives. I kind of show that the idea with the mushrooms and how the mushrooms growing from them are like a parasite and how these issues can affect them.
Ubuntu, I am because we are. This is what I chose to depict for my new mural for Water Lane, and it really just shows the contrast and complement of Jamaica and Africa. So this mural, I wanted to show the difference just between, I guess, our mindset of how we see ourselves and who we were really called to be. So it shows your man and woman, which is your king and your queen, and then also a woman with the baby at her breast, epitomizing just the strength of a woman, and with the basket on her head, a bucket or basket of water. So water is life, woman being the life giver. But it shows even more, the great blue mountains, quote unquote, that's Jamaica, the highest peak. It goes further up, the giraffe, which most people know by now is my spirit animal, but it's also a gentle giant.
What we're trying to do is to remove that stigma and help us to see the beauty of downtown. Downtown Kingston is very, very special. It has a lot of assets through its heritage, its history.
Transforming and rebranding downtown Kingston is the mission of Kingston Creative, a non-profit arts organization.
We're founded in about 2017, and we're really centered around creative people. So our theory is that if you can empower the amount of creative people we have in Jamaica and enable them to succeed, they will then in turn employ people from their families, their communities, and together we'll get, growth in our creative economy. We'll have a healthy creative ecosystem.
You can take a stroll down Water Lane to fully experience, grasp, and get lost in the stories on the wall.
So we've partnered with the KSAC and with the Tourism Enhancement Fund and the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. And we're developing this walkway that goes east-west. It connects our National Gallery on Orange Street, and then you walk along Water Lane and it connects you back with our museums that are on East Street. So it's a natural progression. We used to just walk up and down this lane as we're going on our art walk. And then we started talking to the owners and creating these murals. And now we have about 65 new murals in downtown that we've created since 2018.
Artists and other creatives can also benefit from a creative hub and other initiatives. This includes the recently concluded Catapult program, an emergency grant for creatives.
It allowed creatives to go on an artist residency for 2 months and they were paid $3,000 US. It allowed them to put their work online and they're paid $500 US. It really was a process of giving creatives grants so they could continue creating during the pandemic. We reached over 1,210 creatives in 26 different countries across the region with this partnership with the American Friends of Jamaica. It was our biggest grant to date. We've just signed a $1.295 million US partnership with the IDB. This is a 3-year partnership to explore what happens at the intersection of creativity and technology.
Kingston Creatives is also a new member of the Global Cultural Districts Network and is listed among others such as Paris, London, and Dubai. Thanks to the efforts and partnership of Kingston Creative, downtown Kingston is well on its way to become a vibrant art district and a space for people to really enjoy our rich culture.
We've come to the end of our program. Get a recap of all you saw here and more on our YouTube channel. Also, feel free to visit our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for news you can use. In the words of Bob Marley, the greatness of a man is not in how much wealth he acquires, but in his integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively. From all of us here at the JIS, I'm Audrey Williams. Bye for now.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.